So, legendary IndyCar mechanic, IndyCar tech official, and second ever transgender pig owner, Rocket. If you could describe this lunch with racers in one word, what would it be?
It'd be cool.
I like it.
Yeah, that'll get them to listen.
Yeah. Press play now.
And now for Dinner with Racers, presented by
Continental Tire.
with your hosts, Ryan Eversley and Sean Heckman.
Placeholder radio sound. I'm a driver. I'm very angry. This is the sound of a driver on the radio during a race.
What do you think I should order?
Welcome to Dinner with Racers. I'm Ryan Eversley, and I'm alongside my friend and partner, Sean Heckman.
Yeah, that's a questionable statement. Partner? Meh. Friend? Meh. But anyway, I can say that because Ryan is just about to leave here. We're on our way to LAX and wrapping up a 40-day trip across 29 states, driving 12,000 miles in a Honda Odyssey on, Ryan, what kind of tires?
Continental Tire.
Cross Contact LX20, all to bring you 28 additional free episodes that most of you seem to enjoy, but a few of you will feel the need to throw in criticism not necessarily based in the reality of how we do this. But speaking of living in the real world, we wanted to introduce you to another one of our sort of behind-the-scenes favorite people in the world now, a guy by the name of Kevin Rocket Blanch.
We hadn't met him before, but when we were reaching out to some of our friends, like, who are the interesting people we need to know about? The same name kept coming up, Rocket.
Now, Rocket is not somebody that the everyday motorsports fan may necessarily have heard of, but if you're in the IndyCar paddock, you absolutely know who he is. He's been a mechanic in the Champ Car and IndyCar scene for decades, turned IndyCar tech official about 15 years ago, and on a personal level, possibly one of my favorite guys that I've met all year.
We went to Tegry Sushi, where we had dinner last year with Sarah Fisher. They remembered us like no question, which was pretty neat because it's been a year. We were only there once. And while we're having lunch with Rocket, none other than Marco Andretti and Scott Dixon are having lunch in one corner. And then on the other side of the room, Joseph Newgarden walks in halfway through the episode, who didn't get back to us. And so it was one of those episodes that was like, what's happening right now? But I had the rainbow roll and avocado roll, which is kind of my chicken sandwich to the sushi world.
And I had the actual chicken sandwich to the sushi world, which was the chicken sandwich
Right. Of the sushi
of
world.
the sushi world.
So let's get to know Rocket.
All right, we're going to start in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hey, man, how are you?
How are you?
What's going on? Hey, Sean,
Hey, Kevin, I'm Ryan. Or Rocket, I'm Ryan. Sorry.
take a seat.
I like it.
It's all good.
So you can grab a headset. Have you ever been here before?
Are you?
Do you
we
like
we were
sushi?
just discussing this. Like, did we make a mistake on the sushi call?
Okay.
Are you sure? You can, all right.
Okay.
All right.
All right,
All right.
cool.
You can tell. There's a pizza place across the street. You can tell us if we're wrong. All right.
This is fine.
All right. Thank you. So,
So this is fun for us because we know you don't know anything about us.
yep.
Which one of you is which?
Okay, so I'm Ryan. I drive.
Yeah, that's why I was looking. You must be the driver.
Yeah.
What are you trying to say?
Sorry,
Nothing,
Sean.
nothing.
So a couple rules because we did a little research on you. You can say whatever you want on this show in terms of language. We
That's
bleep
good.
we bleep stuff, but
Yep.
mostly just because it's funnier than when we don't bleep
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly.
So then one thing we like to do, because it's so, and I'm sure you've experienced this or at least heard about it, is that like racer.com tends to have some of the best, worst comments on their threads, like in
Yeah.
the forums. And when we were Googling you, we came across the title of the thread was Kevin Blanch's language at the end of the race. And the whole thing was when Helio gets called for I guess he like had a
Yeah, this was Edmonton 2010. He got screwed. Just to set up the context, basically, I shouldn't say he got screwed. There was a rule at the time that said you can't change your line at all. You can't make a defensive move. It's not like a react. You cannot change your line. He changed his line to basically keep Power from making a pass on him, and Barnhart said no.
Yeah.
Right.
And
He basically got on a spot that we called out of bounds.
Right.
Right.
It's on a runway, so it's so wide.
Right.
and we said, okay, you have to take a racing line through there, and he chose not to take a racing line.
Right.
So race ends, he gets out of the car, you're there, and he just gets in your face. Like,
Yeah, so I got a lot of part-time guys that work for me.
Sure,
so
sure.
one of my whole goals is I don't want them guys getting in my guy's face. So
Yeah.
I tried to work my way down there,
Right.
say, hey, look, we don't make the call. We're just here to tell you what happened.
Yeah.
And I'm the kind of guy, I've grew up on a farm. I'm an old hillbilly. Don't touch me. You know,
I hear that.
you can call me what you want to call me. You can say what you want to say. It'll be gone tomorrow,
Right.
but don't touch me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
get
he
that.
touched me, and
Yeah.
I flipped out a little bit.
So there's dispute in the forums about what you actually said to him. What did you actually say to him?
The most common thought was that you said, "Get the out of my face! I'm just doing my job."
And that's exactly what I said.
Which is a
don't
fair
don't
thing.
touch me.
So
I
that-
think is what I said. was
Right,
don't
right,
touch me. I'm just doing my job.
That the next
Yeah.
guy was like, "I thought he said don't touch me." Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But the fun thing was that then fans, I'm using quotation fingers here because sometimes I don't know if they are. It was this guy made him part of the system or the
He
situation.
made himself part of the show and the whole
and
thing. He's putting himself in the story.
And Sean's like, no. When Helio accosted him,
Yeah. What was he
Helio
supposed
made him
to
a part
do?
of the show.
Yeah, I mean that's my job, right? I mean,
Right.
and like I said, I went down there
Right.
because I don't want to put the guys that work for me in the position of having to deal with these guys,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
knew he was going to be upset.
Yeah, of course.
And I know Elio. We're great friends. We're still great friends
It's a
today.
heated moment. It's a heated moment. Yeah.
I mean, my daughter's one of his biggest fans.
yeah.
Sure.
And right now we can joke about it. You
Yeah.
know,
Right.
even after it, they wanted to do a video, and I'm like, no, he touched me. You don't understand.
Yeah, right.
Don't
right. Just
touch
don't
me.
touch me.
If
Yeah.
he
Leave me
could
alone.
have said anything or done anything, but when you make it, and I guess my point is making it personal.
Yeah.
It
Right.
becomes personal. When you touch me,
Yeah.
it's personal.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it wasn't personal. It was just that's what my job
Following
is.
the order.
You
Yeah,
know.
totally.
So we're all good.
Yeah,
He's
all
a great
good.
guy.
Okay.
One of the best guys ever to drive one of these cars. So
Sure. Absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely.
To be fair, though, to this forum, which we don't really have to be, we can just on anybody. A couple of guys were like, I like the fact that the guy was like, leave me the alone.
Yeah.
You know, like he was a real person instead of like, this is where we stand with IndyCar or whatever. It was just like,
Yeah.
hey, get off me. And
yeah,
that's that.
and that's all it was.
Right.
That's 100% of what it was. And like I said, I'm just an old farm boy that
Right.
got in the right place at the right time, and sometimes I admit I don't quite come across the right way.
That's why. You're
That's real, though.
yeah, that's it. No,
It's the passion, right?
Yeah.
You're racers.
Yeah.
You all get it.
How are you with this? Like what you're doing right now? Like
As a tech.
as like a tech guy who's been a mechanic forever. I mean, being on podcasts or do you do much PR stuff? Do they make
Yeah,
you
I
get out
actually
front?
just did an article for Peterson's Outdoor Magazine, Bow Hunting Magazine,
okay.
because
Okay.
I've kind of, as I transitioned away from being on race cars where you're
Yeah.
working 16-hour days, 7
Right.
days a week,
Right.
150 days in a row,
Yeah.
is kind of the reason I moved over to do this.
Sure.
I just, after doing it so many years, I won the 500 championships, tons of races. I wanted to live a life
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
a normal guy,
I get
right?
it,
Yeah,
man.
totally.
People
get it.
don't get that this is not normal.
Yeah.
This job is not normal.
Absolutely.
You make very little per hour, if you want to call it
God,
that.
yeah.
Have I made a good living? Yeah, great living. But if you break it down in per hour, it's terrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
And,
Yeah, yeah.
and so then I wanted to do some things on my own. I wanted to try professional fishing. I give that a shot.
Okay.
I can do it. I know I can. I conquered that. I want to go do something else. So I taught myself how to hunt.
Right.
Right.
So that's why I kind of moved over to where I'm at now.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Let's talk pro fishing for a second. So what is pro fishing?
getting paid to fish.
I figured that out. But
That's-
is there like a circuit? Is it?
Yeah,
I don't-
there's several circuits, and when I worked on race cars, I could dabble in it and do it a bit.
Yeah.
And I convinced myself it's like golfing.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys golf, but I used to
know.
golf
Yeah, we're
too.
terrible.
And I was a terrible golfer until I played every day,
Right.
and then I got, I can do this.
Right.
But then you can't do it anymore. So
Right.
it was the same way in fishing. I could go compete, and I represented myself reasonable, but I thought, you know what? If I give it an honest chance, and I did, and
Yeah.
I ended up 11th, which was one shot out of making the championship.
No kidding.
And it all boiled down to a fish I threw back that I didn't understand the rules, and it is what it is. But I proved I could do it.
Nice.
I was gonna say, how many people are trying to make this top 10 championship?
Hundreds.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's
Yeah.
got to be a
thousands.
ton, right?
And through that, Robbie Floyd, who is a reporter you guys may or may not know of him. He does a lot of X game type stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Was able to introduce me to, Skeet Reese of the world and Dean Rojas, these guys that are, Skeet Reese is in the top 5 in the world.
His name is Skeet?
Skeet. Yeah, Skeet.
Skeet.
That's not his real name.
Okay.
I actually had to ask his wife what his real name was.
How did he get the name Skeet?
I have no idea.
Shooting Skeet.
I've known him for years.
Okay, probably.
And
Okay.
I've known him for years, and I finally he come to the 500, which was great. And I asked his wife, "What's his real name?"
Right.
Because nobody names their kid Skeet.
No, no, they don't.
And
Definitely not today.
so through him, he helped me and taught me what I needed to know. And once again, I was able to prove to myself I could do that. So that's kind of what racers do. You want to prove
figure
what
it
you
out,
can do.
conquer it. I conquered it. On to the next
Let's
thing.
try something else.
Yeah. I
still love
that.
to fish. I may go this weekend and fish a tournament.
Sure.
I just don't do it full time because once again, I got right back into the commitment that it took to be a racer.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
then
then
it becomes a job.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It
Stay
turns
at it.
into your work.
Yeah.
Stay out of podcasting. It's way too small of a pond. We
Don't come
don't
conquer
need
our
more
world.
people.
Our world.
Our
Yeah,
world.
Jesus.
We own this.
So we have a mutual background friend, you and I do, a kid named, you know him as Harry Potter.
Oh, yeah, I gave him that name, Harry Potter.
Steve Burrows and I go back to 2002. He came straight from doing like the Russell Mechanics program to work for the team I was a mechanic at back in 2001 called Archangel Motorsports. And he and I got to be buds, and then he went on to work with you guys at Panther. And so we reached out to him, and he had some pretty funny stories. Nothing too damning, but
that key word there is damning.
yeah. But one thing he did say was that you don't work with Rocket, you work for Rocket. Is that how it is in the tech side now with IndyCar? Like you got your guys, and you're the chief, and they're the Indians.
I would say that's strange. It's different now because when you're on a race car, especially back when I started doing it, and it's still today, but not as much, is, these guys die. And that's hard to say that.
Yeah.
I've had them die driving cars for me, and maybe that made me a little different than I should have been.
Sure.
And you always question, is it something we did wrong? So you're probably right on racing. They worked for me.
Right.
Now they work with me.
Yeah.
I got some key guys that really help make the rules.
Mm-hmm.
I can send them out on the pit lane, and I don't have to worry about being out there and making sure while we're practicing that it's ran right. So I'm a lot different now than I used to be.
Yeah.
And it's just different than the real world. People don't understand. Like I said, guys die doing this stuff, and it probably was different back then. And you had to prove yourself to move up. There's guys nowadays that are chief mechanics that probably could not be a mechanic for me.
Okay.
They probably wouldn't have the ability
Right.
that it took to win championship after championship and race after race.
Right.
And, I go back to the days I worked for Derek Walker, and we did 265 days in a row.
Yeah.
And took a day off.
Wow.
And then did 100 more.
Right.
Today's world's a lot different than then, and the cars are a lot different now than they were. So back then you really needed guys that worked for you.
Yeah.
I know that's weird to say, but
No,
they
makes
didn't work
sense.
with you. They worked for you.
Right.
And you had to make sure you had your finger on top of everything that was going on because, in it's your responsibility.
Right.
The car wins or it doesn't win. And a chief mechanic back then, I set shop hours. I did I did everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Only thing I didn't do is say, hey, here's the plane we're flying on.
Right,
Other than
right.
that, I did everything it took to
Well,
do the job.
And safety aside, I mean, you're dealing with a schedule that's not going to move. That session's happening at 3, whether we're ready or not. We're going out at 8 a.m. for warm-up or whatever it is. So it's got to be done the way you need to get it done because there's no time to sit there and talk about, how should we approach the wiring?
Exactly.
Yeah,
We prided ourselves on being the first on pit lane.
Yeah.
I was thinking driving up here, I've done every single IRL race and every open test the series has ever had.
Right.
And since 1989, I have never missed a race.
Yeah.
Ever.
Wow.
And I know just people that work at IndyCar that I'm sure I'm close to probably one of the only guys.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's just how I am.
Right.
It's my job. It's what I do. It's how I pay my bills.
Mm-hmm.
How I feed my family.
Right.
Yeah.
It's how I get my vacation money
Right.
or
Yeah.
whatever it is. And that's just the commitment, I think, personally, that it took to do it right.
We try to avoid the resume stuff because it's more about shooting and telling stories. But I mean, you've been here since '89. So sort of, who are some of the teams you've worked with?
Oh, I've worked with Emerson Fittipaldi was the first driver. Patrick, Ganassi, Walker, Menards, Panther, Treadway. Yeah. And it's strange but once again, back then, that's how you had to. When you were moving up, you had to move on.
Yeah.
It's not like it is nowadays.
Yeah.
Back then, when you got to the point you felt, okay, I can be a lead mechanic, most of the time the lead mechanics that were on that team weren't leaving.
Right. Yeah.
So you had to go to another team to be become. And I started as a painter. I sat here and think about it.
Okay.
I started painting cars, and it took 1 year, and then I became a mechanic.
Right. 2
years later, a lead mechanic. 3 years later, I was a chief mechanic.
Right.
Wow.
So
that's a pretty fast climb.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And
especially then.
and it has to do. I think I'm a dick. I get it, man.
yeah. But I think that's honestly like some of the best guys I worked with because that's how you get done.
Right.
You know
that's with Harry. Every time I see Harry.
Steve.
Right.
Okay. I'm just making sure I understand. Like,
I love it.
No, that's fine. I just want to make sure I know who the Harry is.
To this day, he will say the same thing. It was always, "God damn it, Harry."
Yeah.
That's what it's like every sentence started out with, "God damn it, Harry."
My name, Jesus Christ.
And I promise you, if you'd call him today and say, "What's the one scene?" he would say the exact same thing I just said.
Yeah.
But that's, he was a young kid, and it was like, "God damn it, Harry. If you're going to do it, this is how we're going to do it."
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, he said the way you hired him was pretty funny because he sits down with it and it was like, oh, you're from Michigan, huh? He's like, yeah. He's like, okay, you fish up there? And you're like, yeah, I've been fishing. And you said, I like to catch bass. You catch bass? And he's like, yeah, a couple. He's like, yeah, go get your toolbox. You'll be the engine guy.
Yeah. and you can tell, guys. I mean, if you've been in, you can tell who's going to be good and not. And Harry, a little different than a lot of people, but he was a worker.
Yeah.
I mean, he did the job. He knew what you needed to have happen, and just like you said, I've won 3 championships, 2 500s.
Right.
And that's what it took.
Yeah.
So when you're winning those championships, you're a crew chief or car chief?
2 of them, I was a crew chief.
Okay.
For Sam Hornish.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the first one was with Emerson when I first started. So it actually ruined me. We won the 500.
You're spoiled.
Yeah. We won the 500, the championship, 5 or 6 races in the very first
and that was
season.
With Patrick?
With Patrick in '89, but it was really Ganassi. It was kind of strange.
Sure.
Yeah.
Chip was buying him out.
Okay.
And that actually helped my career quite a bit because Patrick was going to quit racing, and then he decided he got the Alpha deal.
Yeah.
Decided he was going to keep racing, so he took all the guys from the shop, except for 4 of us. 4 of us stayed, but my deal was I'll stay, but I'm not painting them cars.
Yeah, I don't want to paint. I don't want to paint.
I just
so
did
you were
that
the
to
painter,
get
and then that gave you the chance to move up because everybody left. Basically.
Right. So everybody left, and I said I'll stay, but I want to be a mechanic. And okay, you got to teach the next painter. So I knew a guy, brought a guy in, said here, and moved on from there.
Yeah.
How is actually? I mean, not to go on too much of a tangent. How much has painting changed over the years? Actually.
Oh, they don't paint anymore.
Yeah,
it's all vinyl.
It's all vinyl.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just looking at a deal Charlie had on about his diabetes, and the cars in the background. It's all primed, but that's it. That's all it does.
Yeah.
It's primed.
Yeah.
I'd be there and painting that Marlboro red sucked. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
I had been a body man for only 3 or 4 years, and once again, I thought I picked it up pretty quick, and then I tried to paint this Dayglow shit, and I remember the guy teaching me, and I couldn't get it right. And I'm in there at 11, 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, how the hell do they do this?
Yeah.
Well,
a lot of the younger guys don't know what that Marlboro red really was.
It
that
was
crazy, like Dayglow pinkish looking
and it was
thing.
made that way to show up back in the day of being red on TV. That was however they did the, nowadays they'd show up Dayglow if they did it on TV, but it was the whole intent to make it red.
Right.
But it had to be white underneath because of the color was so transparent. I could not figure that shit out.
That's cool.
I remember the guy coming by going, if you don't get this figured out, they're going to fire you. Yeah, I get that, dude.
Thanks for the pep talk.
You don't have to tell me that. I get it.
So being a self-proclaimed dick, as a car chief, crew chief, whatever, I guarantee you have rival crew chiefs in the paddock that don't like losing to you.
Oh, yeah, Rick Reineman.
Rick
Reineman.
that's the guy?
That was the guy.
Yeah.
When I remember this, there's just some things you remember plain as day, and I started with the IndyCar IRL back then right off the bat.
Yeah.
And when they said Penske's coming, I said, great, bring them. We won the championship the year before they got there. We won the championship the year they got there. And I said, that's good. Bring them on.
Yeah.
More competition, the better off. We're just going to beat better people. That's all we're going to do. And I had been around Rick or known Rick from the kart days. And that was the guy we were there. That's if you wanted to be good, you had to be like him.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure working for him was working for a dick.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
he doesn't come across like that personally, but I'm sure
That's how it is.
you do it his way or you don't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and that's who you wanted to be.
Yeah.
So where are you guys going next?
We're here for a couple days.
We're here for a couple days. We got you now. We're gonna do Mike Hall this evening.
I call.
Yes, sir. Any
yeah.
stories you got? Go crazy.
I never worked for Mike.
I'm
Trying
sure
to
you.
think back.
Sure you have to deal with him.
Tom Anderson. Yeah, actually, Mike's a good guy.
Yeah.
He's a common sense racer.
Yeah,
You know, I
totally.
don't know any other way to put it other than he's a racer. Most of them are good. I know them all. You know, the thing
Yeah,
is,
totally.
I know all the guys at the top now were at the bottom when I was at
Yeah.
the bottom.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
so you know all of them. You know, not as much of the younger guys anymore, but there isn't many younger guys. This sport's dying for young people.
I
Really?
I
I
say
believe
that
it.
a lot lately.
I don't
and
know how
it's
it
true.
is in sports car
It's
racing,
the
but I'm
same.
guessing it's the
the
same thing.
Yeah.
You know, and I go to work they get tired of hearing this shit at work, but I'm like, we got to get it simple.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
got to make it like Saturday night racing.
I
Because
say the same fucking thing in sports
I
car
went to
racing.
Kalamazoo Speedway this year on a Wednesday. I went to New Paris on a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And the place was
Packed. Exactly right.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it's from young kids all the way up, so
Yep.
they can't tell me it isn't. The people aren't there.
Right.
But the deal is, it's a one-day show. You're in,
Yep.
you're out. There's
Yep.
constant entertainment.
Right.
Yep.
It's
Right?
nonstop.
You can latch on to one of these guys and
Yep.
follow them around next week,
Yep.
wherever they happen to go.
Yeah.
And
And
you know,
it's-
Kalamazoo holds 6,500 people. It was packed
Right.
on a Wednesday
And you
night.
probably drop in between ticket, popcorn, soda. You probably drop in $10.
Oh, yeah.
You know. So yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, we went this weekend and surprised me. Got to pay $20 a piece, but
Like, whoa,
you know,
whoa, hey.
there were 7 feature races, and I'm thinking, you know what? This is 4 hours of entertainment.
Yeah.
Pay $20, and I'm going to go get in my car and drive home. And
Yeah.
the place was packed. Once again, packed.
Well, that's the other thing is you say you need more young guys. The IndyCar schedule as it's been the last couple of years is for 6 months really, really tough.
Insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so like, I mean, we're over 30. You're probably
50.
over 30.
Over
so,
50.
Okay. That's brutal.
It
to
is
like,
brutal.
you know.
You know, you talk to the guys like Rick Reineman and Matt Johnson from Penske, the guys that's been around a long time. We worked a hell of a lot harder back then.
Yeah.
And had a hell of a lot more fun. I don't know, you know, I don't know what the difference is. I can't put my finger on it, but you know, I go back. One time we went to Phoenix. Chris Griffiths, who taught me how to do this, and really, he died playing basketball, which is what he loved doing.
Okay.
My age, you know, and
We have a heart attack or
he had a heart
something?
attack.
Oh, wow,
Just
that's
playing
terrible.
ball, had a heart attack.
Yeah.
Poof, you
Yeah.
know, great guy. Taught me 95% of what I know. He was a chief mechanic for
Okay.
2 or 3 years when I was with him. But I remember going to Phoenix, working for days. We would go from Phoenix, work on the car, get it right, go run at Firebird. Every
Yeah.
fucking thing on it we just fixed broke. Fix all of that shit. Then go back to Phoenix and race.
Right.
And then go from there to Long Beach and race. And then
Yeah.
stop and test on the way home.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember we'd get done working and we'd drive up to Flagstaff, fill the trunk of the car with snow, drive all the way back down, have a snowball fight in the hotel, you know? And you're thinking, what the hell's the difference now? That nobody
does this.
You know, we played softball. There was softball teams.
Yeah.
We'd play every
Yeah.
place we went. We played basketball. I mean, I remember driving at Arizona State, driving around, 5 guys with work shoes on, long pants, looking for somebody to play basketball. We ended up playing the Arizona basketball team out on a court.
How'd that
And when
go?
we walked up, they looked like, who are these fucking hillbillies? Right? We're like, we just sat around, hey, you want to play? Yeah, we'll play 5-on-5. Here's the rules. We actually ended up competing with them.
Right.
Eddie Cheever played with us.
All right.
We competed with them. We got done there like, who the hell are you guys?
Right.
Oh, we're from Indiana. Oh, okay, we get it.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, okay, we understand now
Yeah.
how you can play basketball.
You're
Because
born with a
in
basketball
Indiana,
out
that's
here,
what you
yeah.
do. You play basketball.
Yeah.
You know, and just nowadays that just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
You know, and like you said, the schedule is races is more brutal.
Yeah.
But the amount of work is not. It's less.
It's less,
Tons
right.
less.
Yeah.
Right.
The cars are simpler. They're easier. You can't fix anything on your own anymore, so you go buy it and put it on.
That's right.
Right.
That's
You know,
right. Yeah.
And I don't understand why we can't get them people, the young kids, to come here and race with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and they do exist. They don't. like I said, I go to work and they go, I don't give a shit about your Saturday night racing. I'm like, you should.
Yeah.
We need to go to Iowa and we need to race on Thursday night.
Yeah.
And we need to make it, you know what? Green flag laps only. That's
Yeah.
one I keep telling them. I said, I'm going to Kalamazoo and it's a 100-lap race. Guess what? Only the green ones count.
Yeah, I like that.
The yellow ones don't matter.
Yeah, first time I went to a sprint car race, I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh, okay, and you don't lose a lap unless you're out, which I think is great because it keeps everybody in the fight.
Everybody in the hunt.
Yeah, I'm not saying you have to do that for every race. Like leave Indy alone; it's tradition.
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah, exactly.
But like if you go to Iowa or one of these shorter ovals, do that.
Try it.
That'd be great.
I grew up in California, so I didn't grow up in the short track scene. We were more road course family, and my dad and I went to our first 500 in 2004. And so we decided we're going to do it. We're going to do the whole weekend. So we do, the 500s on Sunday, but, Friday night you had the Hoosier 100. You had the night before on Saturday. And so we were like, let's do all that. And I couldn't, to your point, I couldn't get over not only how many fans there were, but how they knew everything.
Yeah.
They all had their shirts, and they were keeping score on who was in what heat and who qualified and who trained. It was like, holy
Yeah, that happened this weekend. I took my girlfriend, and we where did we go? Oh, we went to Bear Field this weekend.
Yeah.
She looks down, and this guy got his little timing, little stopwatch, and his little sheet. And she's like, the hell's that guy doing? I said, he wants to know who qualified where and when.
Yeah.
I said, that's a fan.
Yeah,
That's what you
exactly.
call
That's a guy that
it.
cares.
That's
Yeah.
a fan. That guy gets it. That's another thing we did this year. I got 4 or 5 guys that work for me that are big race fans like me. I mean, we went dirt racing in California. We went modified racing up in New York.
Yeah.
We tried to say, you know what, this is modified country. Let's find a modified race. We went late model racing, and tried to pick. We probably went 7 times this year, which is what, like I said, started to get me back connected to like why I started doing this.
The grassroots fun.
And it's so much fun and so cool, and the fans are there. We just got to figure out how to bring them over.
So the do you go on like racer.com and read forums or any of that kind of nonsense?
I do.
Oh, you do? Okay.
I do just for,
to laugh.
especially if we make a decision on the weekend. You want to say, okay, how are the people
All right,
taking
what did they
it?
say?
How they're taking it.
Sure. Because in our opinion, a lot of especially on the racer forums with IndyCar in particular, are brutal.
They're brutal.
Fans just are never happy with a guy. Like last year's season, we went nuts because there was a very light press release about the banquet that went out. Like, it's going to be in San Francisco. And, like, the first forum response was, oh, typical IndyCar. We're like, what? It's a banquet. You're not going. What are you doing?
Exactly.
So, but, like, it's for the forum fans who are convinced that everyone behind IndyCar is an idiot, is there someone sort of behind the scenes that, like you were using the phrase that we like to use a lot, he gets it. Like, is there someone within IndyCar that maybe people don't realize how much they get it and people don't know?
I would say right now, Jay Fry, who he just brought on, he gets it.
Yeah.
He gets it, man. I mean, I've been there 14 years, and he gets it.
Yeah.
The thing people miss out there is, we got to make fans happy, drivers happy, teams happy, owners happy, sponsors happy, racetrack promoters happy.
Right.
So sometimes the decisions one group doesn't like or the other group does like.
Right.
So that's when you get that, man, them guys suck. They don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
But you got to sit in a room. You can talk about whatever testing, no testing, more testing, less testing. Well, you got to make it make sense for everybody.
Yeah.
And you guys, once again, are racers. Testing's a prime example. Racetracks are hard to come by now.
They are.
Yeah.
Every track is booked every single day.
Yep.
So if you want to test, now it costs you $50,000 a day to rent the racetrack. It isn't $5,000 like it used to be.
Right.
Yeah.
So you got to start looking at these things and going, if you're going to save the team's money, this is what you got to do.
Yeah.
Now, some people like it, some don't like it. But the fact is, you got to sit in a room and look at it from every single person's point of view.
Yeah.
And try to make that decision that says, okay, we're going to make 80% of them happy,
Right.
and 20% are going to be pissed.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
And that's the 20%, that go on the forums. Like, you look back at cars we disqualified for weight.
Yeah.
It's a number, guys. Make the number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It isn't the
Doesn't
number.
change.
It isn't the number minus a half a pound.
Yeah.
It isn't
Yeah.
the number minus 10 pounds.
Yeah.
It's the number.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Oh.
Weight in race cars is a huge difference.
Right.
Especially on ovals.
You got to stop it,
Especially on
and you
ovals.
got to get it moving.
Yeah.
And it makes a difference whether it's a half a pound. And once again, you look into that and you say what the fans don't get is, as a team, you want to be 7 pounds heavy, or You choose that number, not me.
Yeah.
I don't choose you're going to be 5 heavy.
Yeah.
You choose what you feel is safe to make you make weight when it's over.
Right.
If you choose wrong, you didn't have just that half a pound advantage. You had whatever your window was plus whatever
Right.
you were under.
Exactly.
Right.
So that half a pound or 2 pounds or 3 pounds turns out to be 9 or 10 pounds.
Yeah.
And you get to that, and you go back to the old adage: 10 pounds, 10 horsepower, 10 pounds of drag. That all is mile an hour.
Right.
Everything's miles per hour.
Yep.
Right.
You know, so
You guys did something a couple years ago I liked, where there was I can't remember what car it was. I want to say it was Bourdais maybe, where he failed for fuel capacity, I believe, or something along those lines. Maybe it was weight, and then you guys put the weight that he used on the burnouts he was doing back into the car, and then the penalty wasn't as severe or whatever it was.
Yeah, and you look
And
at
I remember thinking, logic.
Common
That's a
sense.
fucking common sense, exactly.
Right,
I was like, I like that.
common
Yeah.
sense is you take another one. A capacity, the way these race cars are, they're carbon fiber. That shit moves.
Yeah.
It gets hot. It's different than it is when it's cold.
Uh-huh.
Right? So you get a capacity is 18.5 gallons. So you make it 18.45, and you hope you're right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right? And if it moves a little bit, and then you race, and you're over by 1/10 of a gallon. If you go back, the cars have so much data on them now. You can take that data and look at it and go, did he ever even use it? No, he always had 4 gallons left in the car.
Right. That you guys did that as well. and
That's
I thought,
common sense.
I was like,
Yeah.
that's fair.
Well,
That's
that's
common sense. He's still going to pay a penalty.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's not going to ruin the day.
It's common sense.
Yeah.
Now, you got to tighten it up sometimes, and like I said, sometimes you got to just put your foot down and say the number's the number. I don't give a shit how you get there. It is what it is.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But you also have to use common sense, and these guys know you're going to check these certain things.
Yeah.
Right.
And you don't. I've been a chief mechanic. You've been a driver.
Yeah.
You don't cheat by a little bit.
Yeah.
You cheat by a lot of bit.
Yeah.
Right.
I want to know who the biggest guy you constantly have to go, come on, man. Or maybe just the team. You don't have to give
It's certain
individual
guys.
name. Yeah.
There are certain guys, no matter where they are.
Yeah.
You got to say, dude, I'm done.
Right.
Yeah.
This is it. Don't
Yeah.
you come back like that, and it ain't going to be pretty.
Right.
Well, does that obviously the facts and figures aren't going to change. This is your ride height, this is your weight, whatever. But is there a difference from one team to another? Because you just know, okay, these motherfuckers are always trying to pull something, so
Right.
let's look a little closer to these guys versus like, oh, okay, no, we know they're usually pretty legit.
Yeah. Yes and no. That's a strange answer.
No, I get it.
Because you can't put as an official, you got to treat them all the same.
Right.
And once again, I know all of them.
Yeah.
And I promise you, they will all tell you, just like you said, at work, I'm a dick.
In your time as a tech guy, not necessarily who, but what's the – this is kind of funny. Marco Andretti's sitting in the booth, like directly over
that's
your
funny.
right shoulder, wearing a jean jacket.
All right.
Yeah, funny. What's the craziest attempt at something completely intentional that you've seen? Whether it's like a hidden fuel cell or
Years ago, a movable rear wing.
Okay. How many years ago?
And I can't remember. I'm getting old. I would put it this way. If you went back and you looked at the qualifying speeds in certain years and you noticed all of a sudden one team made a massive jump,
Yeah.
it was impressive.
Yeah.
I will give them, and I still say this to the engineering behind it was incredible.
So how does that? Yeah. So like, if you catch something that's technically legal but completely outside the spirit of what you're saying, so like a movable wing, you check everything's where it's supposed to be, but you know what they're doing. What's that process like? Because obviously you can't DQ them, but do you then go back and say, guys, we need to rewrite this? Or how does that work?
It's exactly what you do.
Yeah.
I was going to say, if you look at the rule book, I started at IndyCar in 2003.
Okay.
If you look at the 2003 rule book, which I was still on the team at the start of that season, and you look at the 2004 rule book, you can tell exactly what I was
Where you
doing to
were.
win races. Because, at that point you go, okay, I'm playing in the gray. That's what they're paid to do, and I explain that to them all the time.
Yeah.
That's what you get paid to do. My job is to tell you when enough's enough.
Right. Yeah.
And if you follow along closely and bulletins come out, you could pretty much read the bulletin and go,
Okay. That's
somebody figured out how to do that.
Yeah.
Now they can't.
Yeah.
Or, I go back to there was a rule when I ran the car that said the underwing must resist an upward movement. It didn't say it had to resist a downward movement. Now it says up and down.
Right.
Right? So we fiddled with it a bit and got it sorted out.
Sure.
and figured out how to make that fit the rule
Right.
exactly the way it was written.
Sure.
Right.
So, it's cracking me up. So, Andretti's eating lunch with Scott Dixon.
They're actually good buddies. I don't know the connection on that one, but they're good buddies.
That's really funny. Yeah, I was like, who's the guy with the hat? Oh, yeah, it's Scott Dixon.
That's
Cool.
amazing.
So last year we came to this restaurant. We interviewed Sarah Fisher, and this was her recommendation. And then Mike Hall was also like, yeah, I'd like to go to Tegry. And then
That's cool.
So we developed. So I called them yesterday to set it up with Mike Hall, and they were so nice. I'm like, you know what? We don't know where we're going around Indy. Let's just go here.
Yeah,
We know these guys.
Clearly, we're in the right spot though.
Yeah, this is the
Those guys
place.
are hanging out.
So actually, when I came in, they knew exactly who you guys were, so you must be making
they
an
remember
impression
us,
on them.
they remember
remembered
us
us
from
from last
last year.
year.
We
Yeah.
were only here for one meal.
Yeah, we went to like
I don't know if you
27
told them
restaurants.
your names or not, but I asked her your name. She goes, "Oh yeah, they're right back here."
Maybe they looked us up.
Yeah.
They listened to every episode.
Yeah, they're huge
Yeah,
fans.
I'm sure they
know,
do.
so. This is like our 36th, 37th, no, probably like our 37th restaurant-ish.
Yeah.
Not one comp.
No one's
Not
ever
one
given-
comp.
No one's
Not
ever
one
given us
comp.
a free meal.
So we're hoping this will be it.
They're like,
This might be it.
or like at least one of the 4 we'll have here this week.
Yeah, one of ours. Yeah, exactly.
They charge a podcast fee. It's extra. yeah.
You took up more than your 3
Yeah, like,
seats.
oh,
anyways.
that was-
Well, that's only fair.
As a guy that used to play in the gray, as you put it yourself, do you ever see something that people bring up or bring into tech and you're like, okay, that's legal and that's genius, but I don't want them to be able to get away with that, but I also appreciate and respect what they're doing. Does that happen often?
Oh
or is
yeah,
it-
that happens
Yeah.
almost weekly.
Right.
I would say almost
Do
weekly.
you comment like,
I see
hey,
what you're doing here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I see this. Awesome.
Yeah.
It's going to be rewritten.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The key word is it's good this week, but it isn't next.
Yeah.
Right.
know?
Right.
Do you say it just like that?
I say it's good this week,
Awesome.
but it isn't next.
Yeah.
And they look at you like, okay, we get
We
it.
get it, yeah.
Or there are sometimes you say, you know what, if you look at it and you say, it depends on how I interpret the rule,
Right.
not how you interpret the rule.
Yeah.
And the way we look at it, that's illegal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, you may not agree with the wording. I'll fix that next week, and you ain't running it this week either.
I love it.
They have respect for what I know,
Right.
Yeah.
for lack of a better way to say that. So a lot of times, now I would never name names, but the majority of chief mechanics will come to me and say, I've been asked to do this. I don't think it's legal. What do you think? And I'll go, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't bring that down here.
Yeah. Don't make me have to
Because
do this.
don't make me have to find it.
You're right.
You know, I always try to say, in the same way I raised my kids, don't lie to me. Just
Yeah.
tell me the truth.
Yeah.
It's going to be much easier.
So how does that, just from a mentality standpoint, how does it change? We talk about this quite a bit, actually. So, like,
Thank you.
on my end of the deal in a race, like, if a team that I do video work for, PR work for, if they win a race, I can claim to be a part of it. But at the end of the day, I'm really not a part of it. I didn't make that car win. You know, that press release is going to get written either way. If Ryan wins, he probably played a role in it somehow. Some people would say it's all
Maybe.
BOP.
It's-
So-
yeah.
If
nah,
he's
I just-
steering it.
I just got lucky.
so you know, there's that extra, you know, for God, how long was that? For 15 years of your life, you're going with that competition. I'm coming to win every weekend. I'm going to beat out this other mechanic. But for the last 13 years, you're showing up in the white shirt, and somebody's going to win the race, and you have no role in that outside
still
of
wear a
DQing
black
them.
shirt, by the
black
way.
shirt. excuse me.
I'm not quite to the white yet.
How does that from a motivational standpoint? Because now you're not competing. If anything, you're telling the competitors they're no good.
You hit
know?
you hit the nail on the head. Is when you compete all your life and then all of a sudden you don't compete.
Yeah.
That's why I started. That's why I fished.
Okay.
That
I
you
get
know
it.
that you got to compete. That's why
Yeah.
I fished. That's why I hunt.
You had to fill
You
the
know,
void.
You have to,
Yeah.
as a competition. I don't care if you play basketball, tennis, whatever you play.
yeah.
Right.
If you are in competition for 40 years of your life, you still got to. It's just what's in you. You
Yeah.
got to compete, right? I go back. I'm looking at this article I did for Outdoor Magazine, and I bow hunt. excuse me, on the ground. And the guy's like, "Huh?" I bow hunt on the ground. And if you're not a hunter, you may not get that, but
Yeah.
to bow hunt, you're 20, 30 yards, 40 yards
Yeah.
from the deer.
Yeah.
And on the ground, you're in their world.
Yeah.
When you're in a
Not up in a
tree,
tree,
you're
yeah.
kind of out of their world.
Sure.
And that's my competition. I did it this weekend. I had one deer within 5 feet of me and one within 20 yards.
Wow.
And my girlfriend's like, I don't know how you do that. but that's what I'm competing against
That's
them.
your
I
thing.
know that's a weird,
Yeah, I get it.
but I'm
Yeah,
competing
100%.
against that deer,
Right.
and it isn't even there to take the animal or whatever or kill the animal. I didn't, and she's like, "Why not?" And I said, "I won.
Yeah, it's done. I know I can hit it.
I
yeah.
won.
Yeah.
It was 20 yards from me. I had my bow in my hand. It was just this easy, and it was done.
Yeah.
I won
Yeah,
right there.
right.
She's like, "Oh, I don't know how you do that." And that's my competition now.
So I asked Bo for a couple key words. I'm like, give me keywords. One of them was guns. So I think we've covered that. I don't know what this means. Pig?
I got a potbelly pig.
You got a potbelly pig. Okay.
I actually had $12,000 potbelly
Ugh.
pig.
Holy.
Man, now,
So
now
how's
did it
that
start
work?
as like a $20 one, and then you got
He
them really
started
big
out
and
as
now-
a $50 one. And,
Wow.
And I actually had 3, and I'm down to 2 now. I have one that lives in the house with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he has actually started as a boy, and now he's a girl. So he had a
Okay.
sex change operation that cost me $12,000.
What?
yeah,
Wait,
hold on.
So
wait.
once again,
Let's back this up.
we'll go back to I'm a dick, but I really love animals.
Sure.
And he got sick, couldn't get him fixed. I took him from Purdue to Nashville, Tennessee, or
Okay.
to University of Kentucky in Knoxville.
All right.
Spent 3 months down there.
Jesus.
He's only the second pig in the world to ever have this surgery done. We flew a doctor in from North Carolina and the doctor from University of Tennessee, and they did the surgery, a PU surgery they call it, and turned him into a girl.
Okay.
And he's only the second pig in the world to have this done to him.
What's the name?
His name is, I got him, I
Caitlin?
adopted him. He lived in a box when I got him, which was a shame.
Where'd you find him?
Some lady was giving him away and said, typical deal, I'm moving. I can't. And when we
Yeah.
got him, he lived in a cardboard box, and he was a white pig, but he was actually black from all the dirt.
Right.
His name was Canadian Bacon. I changed it to Charlie Brown because that was kind of cruel, I thought, So now my whole animal theme is now I just got a new puppy, and its name's Peanut.
So it's all Peanut.
It's
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
Peanut. I got Lucy, Peanut, and Charlie Brown.
That's awesome.
And so, yeah, people look at you kind of weird. I'm actually still paying for the damn thing. But
Right.
once again, I didn't. And when they were doing it, I'm like, this is not for me. If we can save him, I don't give a shit.
Right.
It don't matter what it costs. I
Yeah.
don't care. I'm
how
not
big is he?
rich by any means, but I don't care.
Right,
If it's
right.
for me, then we have to put him down. If it's not, then let's get after it.
Right,
And
right.
3 months later, he came home. He's been home for a couple of years now, and he's like a girl, and he's the first sex change operation pig in the United States.
So I'm so mesmerized
Yeah.
by this, and I'm not making fun of you when I'm laughing. I just think it's funny to hear it's the second one.
Yeah.
It's the second.
Yeah.
Why? Like, what was the reasoning for needing a sex change?
Well, I actually
Intestinals or?
no, he
like-
got a stick rammed up inside of him,
Ugh.
walking out in the woods. So if you're a
Okay.
male,
Okay.
imagine that pain.
Okay. So now I get it. It
Yeah.
wasn't. It wasn't
Yeah.
like a personality.
No,
thing
he
where
didn't. He
it
didn't
was-
like
he
want to
didn't-
wear a
it was
dress
his
or
true
anything
self.
You're
Yeah.
right. He didn't. Recognize himself as a.
as a female.
Yeah.
No.
Well, I've heard they're actually really intelligent to a
Yeah.
fault, like that they're mischievous because they get bored.
Oh, he when he was younger, he'd tear shit up just
Yeah.
like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah.
Just because he didn't want to be in that room.
Yeah.
And
Right.
like now, I have a screen door on my back patio, but
Yeah.
you might as well take the damn thing off
he
because
can
he
just
just
do it.
walks right through it.
He's got the toolbox.
Right.
He's disassembling it.
He doesn't give a shit. Whatever he wants to do
I'm going.
is what he's going to do.
Right.
Right.
That's funny. All right. The next key word was Scott Brayton.
So that's back to earlier. Scotty drove. That's the first car I was a chief mechanic on.
Okay.
When was this?
And I'm getting old, 96, 95, 96.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. So
So-
you worked with them through everything. Then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, once again, that's this is a hard one to explain to people, but that's part of this job.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You have to realize
And accept what could happen.
people die.
Yeah.
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 We're not playing tiddlywinks here.
Right.
I to people that aren't race fans, the easiest way you explain it is these dudes, as you very well know, you put on fireproof underwear, fire suit, fire gloves, fire shoes, a helmet, a Hans device, 6-point seatbelt harness, headrests. Okay, this is dangerous.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and-
it's all for a reason.
Yeah, and for the fans who don't know, in '96 was the first year of the IRL. The cars were going crazy fast at Indy.
fast,
Yeah,
man.
I mean they were hitting like 250 down the back straight or something like that, or some crazy number. Scott qualified on pole, and then had a right rear go in practice, and unfortunately that was it. But that was your car.
That was my car.
Holy shit.
I was, once again, I was the last guy to ever talk to him.
Yeah.
I remember coming down. But once again, back then, chief mechanics had much more control over the car.
Yeah.
Like
well, these cars are so fast, you will all know how crazy dangerous it is. So I'm sure you're triple checking everything.
Oh, yeah. And, you know, we went out to run, and we were doing full tanks, so the engineers were all down on the other cars trying to work, and I just had a run list, and, here's what you're going to do.
Yeah, you're on pole. You're just trying to get simulation.
Yeah, you're just going to go out, and you're going to fill it full of fuel. Yeah. If he doesn't like it, raise it 2 flats, put a half a turn and front wing in it. So we're just going through this little program. He comes down the front stretch, calls me, says the thing's getting a little bit loose. We had no idea. Tires, just Firestone tires, Goodyear tires, just on Indy cars are incredibly good.
Yeah.
They just don't go flat. If it does, it's weird.
Something else.
Something strange.
Right.
You know, when he come by me, I remember him saying it's getting a little bit loose. And if you've ever been in Indy, you know you can tell when a car's crashing because it just gets, for some reason, just deathly quiet. Yeah. And it was one of them deals that just went deathly quiet. And the next thing you hear is the car slamming the wall. Yeah. Son of a bitch, that was us. You know?
Yeah.
And, you know, once again, that's one of them deals when that was my car.
Yeah.
They brought the car back. I told all my guys, look, go home. Just get out of this. I'll clean it up. It's my job.
Right.
Yeah.
I'll take care of it. You know.
Because I assume it was pretty obvious just when it happened.
It sucks.
Yeah.
You know, the guy was the dude wasn't worth a shit anywhere else.
Right.
We'll get honest. He wasn't worth a shit anywhere. But you get him in Indy, he had something about him. He was going to go flat. It didn't matter what. He had the confidence in that place, whatever that was that he had with that place. And like you said, at 250, we entered turn 3 at 249 mile an hour. And he would tell me, and the start-finish line at Indy is a little bit past halfway down the front stretch. But he said, you're going so fast, you physically and mentally have to tell yourself to turn when you're at the start-finish line. Because if you don't, it's too late.
Right.
You know, you're gone. You're gone.
Yeah.
And he could just, I mean, we withdrew a car. To win that pole, we withdrew a car that was 7th, by the way. We were in the race in 7th. And in them days, when you withdrew a car, it was gone. Yeah. Put it on the truck. You're done. Game over. Yeah. That's all you get. Yeah. And we withdrew the car. I was actually in tech line waiting to tech, and we got the other car out. And I said, okay, here's what we need to do. Get it ready. Yeah. They went and made a run. They come back and said, hey, we're going to qualify. And I went, oh, shit. They're like, I just looked at the guys that were tech, and I said, we're out, I guess. Pull us out of line. Yeah. We just rolled the car over to the side, went straight out the pit lane, qualified, won the pole. Tony was actually on the pole. Okay. We knocked Tony off the pole. Yeah. And then, you know, ended up winning the pole, and that's another great story. Tony Stewart is, once again, he's a dick, right? Sure. He's a dick. Racers are dicks, aren't they? They just are.
I'm a nice guy.
Tony's a dick. But Tony,
the followers don't know that.
Yeah, Tony came in the next day, not the next day, but we decide, okay, we're going to put Danny and Gaius in the car. Yeah. We're going to run the race because once again, that's what Scotty was there to race. We're going to race. Tony came in and said, "Look, I tell you what, Rocket, I want to drive the car." He said, "I personally want," and he's a rookie. Yeah. He's like, "I want to take it out, shake it down for you. I don't know what else I can do for you guys, but that's what I want to do." We put him in the car, literally, second time by, he's flat. Yeah. Comes in, goes, I don't know what it was, but something just told me, Scotty's car, he'd be flat, I'm going flat. Yeah. And he went flat. And that's just the kind of guy that people don't understand Tony is, with all this money that he gives away. And, he does some strange shit like we all do, but Tony, down deep, is a really good dude. Yeah. And after that, I've had utmost respect for him. And once again, he isn't there to lose. People have a hard time dealing with that, like they maybe had a hard time dealing with that with me. Right. He isn't there to lose. If he finishes second, it sucks. Yeah. Second, just the first loser. That's all you are. And on that story, we Gaius. This dude's an animal. If you haven't ever met or seen him,
I want him on the show. Like we talked about that this year. I'm like, we got to get him.
Oh, he's an animal, man. This dude's hands are like just massive.
Yeah. Right.
And so we get him in the car. It was 5 years maybe since he'd been at Indy. I can't remember exactly. He'd never been but just a tick over 200 mile an hour. Right? So we put him in this car, and this thing, we literally warmed up at 235 mile an hour. It was nothing.
Insane.
It was like, if you didn't run that fast, you sucked. Right. And We put him in the car, and we put a safe setup on it, tons of wing in it. We're going to make it push.
Yeah.
He makes his first run. He gets to about 225 or 227, so he's 10% quicker than he's ever been.
Already.
And once, happens quick.
Yeah.
He comes in. I couldn't even see his eyes. He was smiling so big. He pulls in and stops, and he goes, "This is the most unbelievable thing I've ever driven." He goes, "I ain't even trying."
Right.
And I'm like, "Well, stop!" Right? We're like, "You got to get out, dude. You are running 227 mile an hour. You got to think about it for a minute."
Yeah.
So we get him out of the car, and we take it back to the garage, and the day's over, and he's like, "Put the car up on high stands," and I'm like, "What?" He's like, "I want it on high stands." I said, "Okay." So we put the car up on high stands, about 3 feet in the air before we leave that night. I come in the next day. He's in the car, belted in, helmet on, and he's driving.
Nice.
And I'm like, "What the hell?" You kind of stand back. What the hell is this guy doing?
Yeah.
For at least an hour after we showed up, he's just doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Finally gets done, wheel comes off, gets out, and he says, "Look, I'm just trying to convince myself I can do this still and make sure I understand turn straight. How much I need to turn."
Burning that muscle memory.
Yeah, he's just running. He said, "I'm just running the laps.
Yeah.
That's all I'm doing." And once again, he taught me then, and that you don't even have to do what you need to do. If you do it in your mind, you can make it happen. So I tell guys this because I feel I was pretty damn good on pit stops. I think I was as good as anybody.
Yeah.
90% of the time I practiced in my head.
Visualize.
I drive an hour and 15 minutes, have back and forth to work, an hour and 15 each way every day, because I still live in the same hometown I grew up in.
Okay.
Wow.
And I would practice pit stops every day, driving home, tire on, tire off, wheel gun on, wheel gun off.
Right.
Don't forget the front wing.
Right.
A lot of people are very critical today of the very spec nature that kind of open wheel has gone into. There's got to be a nostalgia that you've got for those kind of days of when it wasn't all spec.
Oh,
But do you kind of accept the realities of where things are at now? I mean, just more for the fans who don't quite understand the cost nature and the arms race that everybody's kind of afraid of. What do you think has kind of led to where we're at today with that?
It's strictly cost driven because of, like you said, if I can build an A-arm, which we used to build all our own wishbones, we would have 17 options.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. You just didn't have one, because if you wanted to compete, you needed every eighth of an inch wheelbase longer or shorter, or track a little bit narrower or a little bit wider.
Yeah.
And nowadays the cost of building a wishbone is $1,500, $1,700.
Yeah. And
you multiply that by 50, 60, 70 sets,
right?
And you start to understand why, okay, everybody needs to have that same part.
Yeah.
It does hurt the creativity and the, bringing your own stock block engine. But engines are millions of dollars, even in sports cars. I'm sure they're millions of dollars. These things are right on the edge, made to go to this distance, and that's it.
Yeah.
And when you start to open that up, now you get back, you get into qualifying motors. We were in qualifying gearboxes, qualifying suspension, qualifying everything.
Right.
Yeah.
So
and by nature of being qualifying, that means you're throwing it out after it does
exactly.
4
You
laps.
make one run with it's junk.
Yeah.
Formula One's still stuck in that.
Yeah.
They're throwing suspension away every week, and they're starting to understand we can't continue to spend millions and millions and millions, and the race is no different.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I didn't grow up road course racing. I thought it sucked. I hated road course racing. Our road course
That's
racing.
going to go over well.
Our road course racing now, any road course racing nowadays is impressive, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a given who's going to win.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You better get it right, and there's going to be 3 or 4 guys that are right there every week, even in sports cars.
Yeah.
Because you can make it, don't make it about who can outspend the guy. Get the best guys to put it together. Get the guys that can make the wheel spin freely instead of just spending a ton of money to make the wheel spin freely.
Yeah.
There's still that mechanic ability that if I can make my wheels spin easier than your wheels, I'm going to go faster than you are.
Yeah.
And you get the best drivers and you have the best pit stops.
Yeah.
But the thing is on any given day in IndyCar, there's 15 guys that can win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Legitimately win. Not just they need shit to go right. You better beat them.
Yeah.
And I'll look back when I first started, I would say I've been lucky enough every team I was on, we could win races.
Right.
And we were the team when we showed up, that's who we had to beat.
Yeah.
You know, you knew who you had to beat, and they knew who they had to beat.
Yeah.
Right.
Now you show up and go, son of a bitch.
Every
We got
one
to
of
beat
these
all of
guys.
them.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Because if you have a mistake, the next guy doesn't, and he's right on you.
He's there already.
He's there. And I do watch the sports car racing, and it's the same way.
Yeah.
You know, watch the 24 Hours of Daytona. You get to the end of the race, there's 5-6 cars
Yeah, it's a race.
still legitimately racing each other.
Yeah.
You know, when I first started oval racing was just get to the end.
Yeah.
And when I get to the end, then I'll
it
race
starts.
you.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
now,
That doesn't
or
exist.
even, 10, 15 years ago, they throw the green flag, you better get up in the seat and get after it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what, once again, what got Tony a bad reputation is he showed up in NASCAR at the time that all these young guys were showing up and they were racing from the start to the finish.
Yeah.
They didn't buy into that mentality. I'm just going to ride around and wait for the end.
Right.
These dudes got in, checked the
went.
green flag flew. I'm paid to race. I'm racing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Juan Montoya still to this day, I can go home and watch a race that he's in and go, that f***ing dude is bad ass.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Man, he does stuff with race cars that nobody's ever done and
Yeah.
nobody will do.
Yeah.
You know, and I was talking to him at, I think it was Mid-Ohio, and he knows, he's the kind of guy that knows how good he is, which I think you got to be that good. And he's telling me, he said,
What?
my boy is
No,
even
that's
better.
his impression of him.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's nonchalant, but he was telling me, he said, I'm telling you, my son is better than me. He's like, my kid is going to be impressive.
Right.
And you don't hear that very often.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly, from anybody.
Especially with a guy of that caliber.
Sure.
That he's like, you think I pass places you shouldn't pass? You should see this kid in a go-kart.
Yeah.
He's like, this dude scares the shit out of me.
That's awesome. So in terms of not necessarily the facility itself, but the location, what's your favorite track to travel to?
Well, I don't travel. We'll go right down the street to Indy.
Yeah.
Nice.
Fair
Yeah.
enough.
I
Fair enough.
can see that.
Okay. Now,
Second favorite racetrack
like,
to go to?
Where's somewhere that you're like, oh, cool, I'm going to have my favorite burger at this restaurant, or I get to go do this or see this?
Based on what we've discussed, not Long Beach.
I actually love Long Beach. But it's the scenery at Long Beach.
Okay.
It's an impressive race to go to.
Yes, it is.
It's impressive.
It is. Okay. Yeah.
It's I'm still an oval guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Down deep, I'm still an oval guy, and I like, Iowa. Phoenix was badass before they changed it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my God,
absolutely.
you had to be so brave.
Yeah.
Because the car would be good in 1 and 2 and suck in 3 and 4, or be good in 3 and 4, and you were driving the wheels off
Yeah.
that thing in 1 and 2.
Right.
And once again, Brayton, we were talking about earlier, I still have the throttle trace from when we went there. We entered turn 1 at 201 mile an hour
At Phoenix.
at Phoenix.
Jesus Christ.
He come in and said, I will never do that shit again.
He's like, I'm good.
That was a one-lap wonder.
I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm out.
But it was impressive. But yeah, I don't mind going anywhere anymore. I actually like the in the city races.
yeah.
You know, the Long Beaches. I was
Detroit.
really looking forward to going to Boston,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same.
Detroit. You know, I'm not a city guy, but it's kind of a break for me from coming
Right.
out of the
Sure.
country
Sure.
to go to the city and be able to walk everywhere you can go.
Yeah.
And like you said, there's an oyster bar at Detroit that's
Right.
right down on the corner
Right.
that I go to. There's you get these little places you go to everywhere you go. It's like there's a little Japanese restaurant at Road America, and you're thinking of Road America. Yep, there's a little Japanese restaurant we go to,
yeah.
and you start to pick out these little places. It's like every time you go back there because you kind of look forward to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You know.
And over the years in racing, not to sound spoiled, but over the years you start to find other things to get excited about, and I think that's why we a lot of times go to the same
So
restaurants.
Joseph Newgarden just walked in too. I'm not kidding. That's
Wow.
Joseph Newgarden right there.
This must be the IndyCar hangout.
Yeah,
Huh?
This is it.
This is so funny.
All the guys we can't get.
That boy's badass too, right there, huh?
Yeah,
we're
it's going to be a
excited
hell of a year for him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I find I'm more excited when I travel to Mossport that there's a couple of Thai restaurants that we'll always go to and things like that.
Yeah, going
that-
up to Toronto.
Yeah.
I enjoy going to Toronto. That's cool.
Yeah, Toronto's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it surprises my friends a lot, especially because I am a farm country boy.
Yeah.
Right. What? And I'm like, it's kind of cool. Yeah, you get a hotel. You don't have to worry about it going with anybody.
Right.
You know, you can go by yourself.
What's up, man? How you doing? We gotta get a picture of you, just because it's just so funny.
How's it going? Hey,
Actually.
Sean. Nice to meet you, man.
Yeah, it's just like we ran into this guy at lunch today.
Let's say, how do we get you on this?
Yeah. Yeah, we're like, is that Dixon? And oh, there's Newgarden. And then yeah.
Yeah, he'll be He'll be impressive in that car.
That's so funny. So I got to know the nickname. Or the name, I guess, because no one calls you Kevin.
No one calls you Kevin, right? It's all Rocket. Is everybody call you Rocket?
Does the driver's license say Rocket on it?
It should.
It damn well should. Yeah.
You're right, it should. It absolutely should.
Where does it come from?
It started from when I started doing body work. The guy I rode back and forth to work with, nickname was Bullwinkle, believe it or not. And it started as Rocket J Squirrel, because that was Bullwinkle's little buddy, and I rode to work with the guy.
Yeah.
And then when I started at Patrick's, it was painted on my toolbox.
Nice.
Once again, back then, your toolboxes were like personal, man, and you had a sign painter come in and paint them all up real cool for you.
You have all your war stickers from everywhere you've been. Yeah.
And it had Rocket J Squirrel on it, and it stuck. I mean, like literally this quick.
Yeah.
And it has never gone away.
That's funny.
I mean, it's from my dad.
Everybody.
I get emails, and they don't even say my name on it.
Right.
And probably a lot of guys don't even know my name.
Right. Right.
It's just Rocket. I've just been that for so long.
Yeah.
And a lot of people then back when we were running race, they were like, "Oh, it's because of your tire chain." I was like, "No, dude, it was long before that.
Right.
It came with me.
It
might have fit and matched, but it came with me."
Fair enough. So we do a pass along segment. So every guest gets a question that from the previous guest. So yesterday we had lunch with Kenny Wallace, the Herminator, and Kenny's question was, do the competitors know that you are just doing your job? Like, you're not out to get them, you're doing what you were hired to do, or do you feel like it's kind of a
It's both ways.
Yeah.
I think the majority of them get it because I do say that to them a lot. You'll get in joking, "Hey, what does it take to get this by?" And I say, "As soon as you can put my kids through college, pay my mortgage, give me about $4 million to live on, pay all my bills off, we'll think about it."
Yeah,
but not until then.
Do whatever you want. Yeah.
But like I said earlier, this is how I pay my bills.
Yeah.
And I'm the kind of guy that I'm going to do my job 100%. You can be my buddy when we go away from here, and I have a lot of friends. You can't be in this business and not have friends that are on the other side.
Right.
But they get that it's my job.
Yeah.
And you do have to tell them every now and then, remind them.
Right.
They go, "Oh, come on, dude." I'm like, "Hey, it's my job, dude."
Yeah, doing what I was hired.
I'm
just
doing,
like you are.
Yeah. You get paid to do that. I get paid to do this. It sucks. And believe me, I would. It is not even the way I am. It's not a fun thing to do to penalize somebody.
Sure.
It absolutely sucks.
Was that a concern when the time came to put on the black shirt? Like you were the guy trying to get away with it, and they're like, "Oh, shit, I'm going to take a job, and everybody's going to hate me."
Right.
Yeah, you kind of think that. You think, you know what? And a lot of them probably do hate you. That's good. A lot of people hate cops, but they're just doing their job, right?
Right.
I'm just doing my job.
Right.
And as long as I go home at night and say, "Okay, I did my job," I have, like I said, a lot of them are my friends. I've penalized the majority of them.
Yeah, you're like, "Hey, still love you."
At some point in time, we go out and eat dinner together. I go hunting with some of them. We do things together, and there's no way to avoid that. People might think, "Well, how the hell can you do that?" You can't avoid it.
Yeah.
This is what I do for a living.
Yeah.
If you came and raced for us, or I came and officiated it. I'm coming in there with a job to do, and I'm going to do my job. I don't give a shit who you are.
That's all there is to it.
When I go home, as long as I did my job, I'm happy.
Yeah.
And I try to live nowadays by, you can screw me all you want. We can get in arguments all we want. Tomorrow, it's a different day.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that.
Whatever happened, I don't care.
Yeah. Harry Potter. He said the thing about you is that you don't let anything slide. That's like what you're known for. So they have to bring a car to what they think is Rocket standards, because you're not going to give them that. Okay, this one's fine. It's going to be like, "No, dude, fix it.
Fix it."
Yeah.
They'll look at a lot of times, and it's as minimal as a piece of helicopter tape or a decal that isn't following the profile.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking of this because one of them just texted me earlier about another question, and I remember telling him, "Cut that decal." He's, "Come on, dude." I was like, "I don't give a shit, dude. If you don't cut it, I'll cut it for you."
Right. We can fix this right now.
We can, or we can take it off, whatever you choose to do. And it's a great friend of mine. I've hunted with him a lot. We go out to dinner when we're on the road. But he's like, I'm like, no, there's no come on.
Yeah.
Your job was to try. My job's to stop it.
Right.
Yeah.
And we show up tomorrow, and it's like I said, even with Elio. Elio took me a little while to get over, because it got kind of personal.
A little heated, yeah.
And it took me a little while, but right now we can joke and laugh about it.
Right.
And he gets, I will tell you this, Tony Kanaan is a great guy, and it sucks in this business to have really good friends, and then they do end up getting hurt or something, and it bothers me being friends with some of them. But Tony Kanaan is the worst guy you ever want to drive a race car on pit lane.
Yeah.
He sucks. He knows it. I tell him all the time. It's like, dude, get in the right lane.
Yeah.
Dude, quit turning in so soon.
Yeah.
Well, you're on me. I said, no, you suck. You absolutely, I can't stand when you come on pit lane.
Right.
Because I know one of my guys is going to call me. Did you see him turn in from the fast lane? Yep. Did you see him drive through 5 pit stalls? Yep.
Yeah.
And I love the guy to death, but it's like he's the worst guy ever on pit lane.
Right.
If we go out and practice, I think, oh, shit, we just talked about these rules in the meeting, and he's going to be the first guy to break them.
Of course.
Kind of along those lines. I mean, like there's a guy that we race with in sports car racing, Johnny O'Connell. He basically tried to kill Dario Franchitti in the paddock at Detroit.
Yeah.
But everybody knows that story.
So Johnny O'Connell drove an IndyCar for me.
Yeah.
And that's him and Ari Leyendijk. And it was another question you get asked a lot, has he ever driven one? I've never driven one. And it was because of Johnny O'Connell and Ari Leyendijk.
Oh, wow.
Oh, interesting.
And we went to Vegas, and Johnny rolled his off a 4
That sounds about right.
on his top.
Was he at the time? Was he about a second faster than everybody else?
No.
According to him.
He flips the thing over off a 4 and destroys the car.
Yeah.
And then Ari crashes in the race, and it took the opportunity, the first and only opportunity I've ever had to drive one of these things.
Yeah.
We wadded both of them up in a race
right.
and never got to drive it. But yeah, Johnny drove an IndyCar for me. Robbie Gordon, that guy's a clown.
Yeah.
Great.
Oh.
And once again, a clown as in another great guy, and people don't get it.
Oh, okay.
People don't get
Yeah.
that dude is golden, man.
Yeah.
And
I'm a huge fan. That's why I was like,
he's
a clown.
he's badass.
Yeah,
But
that's what I think.
I remember sitting in. I worked for Walker, and that was the days when he kicked the engine cover and all that shit. He's probably the most, besides Sam Hornish, the most talented race car driver I've ever been around.
Right.
Ever. And this dude was badass.
Yeah.
But I remember him. He'd come in and you give the set down sheet, and he'd write, "This thing sucks," and hand it back. And you're like, how are we supposed to
What
fix
do I
this?
do? Yeah.
What exactly suck does? Where's it suck at? And what does suck mean?
Right.
So finally he's like, okay, we got to have a team meeting because this dude he's destroying us from the inside out.
Yeah.
And he starts saying, well, I'll just crash the fucking thing. I said, I'll tell you what you do, partner. If you crash that car, you better climb the damn fence. I don't mind if you crash racing for the front. I'll fix them every day. If we're racing, crash them. That's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
But if you crash this damn thing intentionally, you better climb the fence and don't ever come back.
Yeah.
Don't you ever come back to the truck. And I remember we were in a meeting with Derek Walker, and I'm telling him this, and he's looking at me kind of strange. I said, once again, I'll fix it every day, dude. Every day we'll go put it back together if you crash it. If we're racing them.
Yeah.
But you crash this thing intentionally, or you crash going from 20th to 19th, we got a problem. We got a problem. But, man, you talk about talent.
Yeah.
That is him and Sam Hornish were two of the most badass guys I've ever worked with.
Did Derek Walker ever call you a Muppet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, then we're right in line.
Okay.
Would you believe that Derek Walker would sit down and do this podcast?
I listened to that and didn't believe it. So, Derek Walker's the only guy who ever fired me, by the way.
Oh.
Only
Interesting.
guy ever to fire me.
I feel like he would have fired us that day if he could.
Yeah.
Just out of spite. Just like, now you're fired.
So, I'm not even sure he remembers. So, when he
Oh, we got
I
a
can
lot of
guarantee he
stories about
doesn't.
that.
Yeah.
But go on.
when he came back to IndyCar, the first thing I'm thinking is, God, this is I've worked in the real world since I'm 17 years old, and I've only been fired by one guy, and it's this dude. Now I got to work for him.
Right.
But it worked. For some
good
reason,
now.
we worked.
Yeah.
What'd you do?
I don't know. I think it's about maybe it's my no bullshit attitude. I mean, I'll walk in.
That's what got you fired?
Huh?
What got you fired?
With him? No,
Yeah.
it was my no bullshit attitude that got me fired.
He's like, I'm not dealing with it.
Because it was the 265 days and then 1 day off, and I'm like, this is bullshit, man.
Yeah.
I'm not doing this anymore.
Right.
And at the end of the year, we had kind of terrible driver. We had Robbie and Willie T. Ribbs and Mark Smith.
Okay.
So we kind of sucked with 2 cars and was decent with 1.
Yeah.
And at the end of the year, I remember getting fired. I'm thinking, this is the first job I've ever been fired from.
Yeah.
And then when they hired him back at IndyCar, I was the whole time thinking, oh, my
Here
God,
we
go.
this is not going to be good.
Yeah.
But it was great. I
Yeah.
mean, he was different. I was different, 20 years down the
Sure.
road.
Yeah.
And I think he appreciated because, as you guys can probably tell, I don't pull any punches.
Yeah.
I I don't talk most politically correct most of the time, and I normally try to start out my conversations with my bosses like, this may not come across right, but this is what I think.
Here's where I'm coming from.
Here's where I'm coming from,
Yeah.
and kind of no bullshit kind of guy.
Yeah. The funny thing is that you listened to Derek Walker's episode, but Derek
He's never
Walker
heard it.
didn't listen to it.
He shows up in an IMSA race or a World Challenge race, usually half dozen times over the year, just kind of doing his thing.
Yeah.
And we sat on his little gray fold-up table, had lunch with him
In his office.
in his office, and so we now play a game where we go out of our way to say hi to him because he doesn't remember us.
He doesn't
Just
remember
to
you
see,
at all.
just
Not
to
at
see
all.
what he comes up
Yeah,
with.
because we'll never remind him where we know him. We'll just like,
Yeah.
hey, Derek, how are you? Good.
I'm
Yeah,
good. How are you? Good.
It's
Great.
so we'll tell each other. Yeah, no, I did it again
I
today.
got him. I got a walker today.
He had
Yeah.
no idea who the hell I was.
I saw him
Yeah.
at the Racer magazine party this year in Long Beach, and he's with his wife, and somebody introduced us. They're like, oh, I'm like, I do know Derek Walker. and he's like looking at me, and he goes, refresh my memory. And I was like, I had lunch in your office with the headset on. And he was like, oh. Like, you can see him like waver for a second, like,
Damn guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he's like, how'd it go? I'm like, it's good. We got a lot of feedback. He goes, yeah, people keep telling me about it. Must be good. I never heard it.
Actually, I don't. I had heard one of your podcasts somewhere before you sent me them links.
Oh, awesome.
I don't. It was with Bo. I think when you
Yeah,
told me
yeah,
to do Bo,
yeah.
Cool.
it was Bo. I might have seen it
Yeah.
posted somewhere or something. I went and listened to it.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
He
There's
was-
another character, right?
Yeah.
Bo's.
I've known him a long time.
Yeah.
So to continue on the tradition of this show, we're going to have dinner tonight at this same exact restaurant where we'll probably see the other half of the IndyCar paddock.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, hey,
Like, what the
Helio.
hell's
Hey,
going on
Tony.
here?
Yeah. It's going to be a bunch of people going, yeah, I'm sorry I never responded to the email. Like,
gonna
that's
be
all
everybody
it's
going,
gonna be. Oh, were we
There's gonna
supposed
be
to?
there's going to be an internal IndyCar email that goes amongst all the people that we were supposed to that we tried to get this week. Don't go to Tegry
go to
until
Tegry.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah. You might end up with the headset on your head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have dinner tonight with Mike Hall, and any question you would ask Mike Hall doesn't have to be racing related, could be anything at all, and we'll ask him later tonight.
Personally, I want to know what their decision was to go with Honda.
Oh boy! Oh boy!
Let's call him another question.
No, we're going with that one.
You can
tell
bleep
him why,
that one
Sean.
out.
Tell him why we're going with that question.
We Honda,
Asked you not to ask that.
they were nice enough to give us an Odyssey that we're driving around the country,
As well as
Oh,
as
that's
well
cool.
as they employ him.
I raced for Honda HPD in the World Challenge Series for Acura. Yeah.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
So
I don't think we're going to mother Honda in our podcast.
No, and I don't think, I tell you what, I would guess the answer is at Speedway because that's what matters, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Them
yeah.
cars are badass.
They are
at
good at-
Speedway,
they're good on the
they're
oval.
good there.
Yeah.
They're really good there. But I'm trying to think of this for a minute.
No, that's good.
No,
that's
we-
a perfect
we could
question.
use
I
it,
like
'cause
that
he's going to
one.
give the company line. He's not going to
Yeah, but then we can bust his chops on it.
Yeah.
Especially
Say
me, because like I already worked there.
That's the company line. Because once again, you read all this stuff and it's everybody going off about it's the money they gave them, it's the, this, the that.
Right.
But I get the Speedway's what counts,
Yeah.
man.
Sure.
And I
Big
know if
deal.
I was in that position and it was offered to me, I'd say, okay, if you give me a car that I want to win one race with, I'm taking a Honda to the Speedway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Sure.
what I'm going with.
Did you ever work with Townsend Bell?
No, I never did work with Townsend.
Yeah. I'm trying to think who else we had.
That's like mutually.
Sarah Fisher.
Nope, never with Sarah. I was over here when she started driving.
I got you.
So I actually started. We were watching. One of the guys at work mentioned Gateway the last year we were there.
Yeah.
So I was watching it yesterday. She was quick there.
Yeah. Yeah.
She ran up front the whole time, and you go to so many races, you forget who ran
yeah,
where
where
and
they
what.
were,
All
sure.
blur.
And yeah, she was like first or second. We were running. I was with Sam then. We were third or fourth, and I forget we had. I ain't saying it. Bad set of tires. I had to make a trip down to Nashville for that comment.
Oh.
Okay. Okay.
I didn't mean
We don't
it.
have to worry about
I
that.
didn't mean it.
I didn't really. I was just
Yeah.
kidding. We made a pit stop, and all we did was put fuel in and change tires, and we went from dominating to sucking.
Okay.
Okay.
And you're like, all right, fuel didn't do
And
it.
they stick a mic in my face, and they're like, "What'd you do?" We put tires on it. That's all I can tell you. I don't know what else to say. We didn't adjust the front wings, and we
Rocket,
didn't put a
please come
different
to the front
driver.
office.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I
I can give you
actually
4 reasons.
went with both owners, and we drove to Nashville, and I had to sit in the
wow.
office and
Ugh.
answer why I said that.
Wow.
I'm
So
like-
is that the worst PR problem you've had?
No, shit, no.
He's like, well, this podcast
All right.
clearly.
Yeah.
No, it's not anywhere close. The little unknown story is that we ran Dover badass racetrack, by the way.
Yeah, that was cool.
You could literally look in the car and watch the driver drive it.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
so cool.
Yeah.
But we
You
run
ran
in
Dover in the
Dover.
IRL.
This is IRL.
Yeah.
In Dover, Scott Goodyear was driving for us. Dr. Jack Miller was driving, if that's what you want to
Yep.
call it.
Sure. I remember.
Hanging on.
We were literally entering turn 3. He was entering turn 1. The caution came out. We lifted. There was, I forget who got together. There was 2 cars kind of mid-track.
Yeah.
Shorty, as I call him, Scott Goodyear, because he's much shorter than I am. He just kind of is working his way through all this debris.
Yeah.
And here come Jack Miller. He's going to the front.
Yeah.
And he's passing cars like they're sitting still because they were setting still. He drives right into the side of us. And Goodyear keys up the mic and goes, "I just got hit by a fucking tube of toothpaste." And I'm like going, "Oh my God." And this is back when I just didn't really give a shit about anything.
Yeah.
And I remember I'm down there and I'm in their face and I'm saying, this piece of shit has no business driving a race car. He's
Yeah.
going to get somebody killed. And I'm in the chief mechanic's face, and I'm not kidding you. The next thing I know, the guy literally disappeared. And I'm thinking, it was one of them where you knew what happened, but you couldn't wrap your head around it. Jim Harbaugh hit this guy
Oh.
with he was at a full sprint, and the fence was 10 feet away from us, and he hit this guy like he was tackling a quarterback.
Yeah.
And they slam into the fence, and I'm thinking, oh, this is bad. Right? And he was still a quarterback at the time.
yeah.
I'm thinking, this is bad, man. He ends up pulling his hamstring and can't practice for 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And John Barnes is going, "You fucking realize this is not good." And I'm like going, "I didn't do nothing. I'm just yelling at the guy." And Jimmy has maybe an attitude kind of like I do, and I'm not kidding you, he hit this guy full fledged. And Jim Harbaugh is once again, football players, basketball players, till you see them, you don't realize how big they are because they're all the same size.
Right.
TV,
And Jim's a big guy, and he takes this dude straight to the fence, and I thought, this is going to look good in USA Today. And I don't know how that never got out, but I just, for like 3 weeks, I'm thinking, please don't be the end of this guy's career. Please let this guy heal up.
Right.
It's on you, Rocket.
Oh, shit. I'd have never met that guy out on a tractor plowing a field.
Yeah.
It would have never happened.
Yep.
And to get to be friends with guys like Foyt and
Yeah.
TK, who I have disqualified at the Speedway and qualifying, and I will say, just another story, probably felt worse when he had to requalify than I ever have in my whole entire life. And I disqualified him for literally 3 ounces.
Right.
It was 3 ounces. It was a part he had to have on the car. They didn't have it on the car. It was literally, they said they removed it because it was some vibration. They were trying to fix it and never put it back in. Okay, I buy it. I get it. Part should have been there and it wasn't.
Yeah.
And when he went and requalified, I've never had a more gut-wrenching feeling in my whole life, just going, please, and just run 4 laps, dude.
Yeah.
Because of Speedway, even today, every driver will tell you it is the hardest 4 laps you will ever run in your life.
Yeah.
It's on edge.
Right.
No time to think.
Right.
You got to get it done.
Yeah.
And when he got disqualified, I didn't make him. They made me make him.
Right.
It was probably the worst feeling I've ever had in my
Right.
life. I'd stopped inspecting cars and just stood there and
Right.
went, please don't
Well,
crash this thing, man.
You'd already ruined Harbaugh's career.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the football career's gone. Now TK crashes. I'm thinking, and I even tell him that same story. I'm like, dude, don't ever put me in that position again.
Right.
I'm not sure I can take it.
Actually, on that note, because you pointed something out, who makes the actual DQ decision? Do you just report what happened and here's your conclusion, or do you actually say, nope, I'm DQing
It depends
Okay.
on, when it's qualifying tech, it's
Yeah.
pretty much me immediately.
Okay.
Because there's
no time.
the way our rules work, you got to be at certain places at certain times.
Yeah,
And if
yeah.
you miss any of them, you're out. You don't qualify at all. You start at the back. You don't get a 1 lap taken away. You just don't qualify. So
Right.
that's almost an immediate decision.
Well, also the nature of qualifying, there's no time for a Wednesday
Right.
ruling,
We're not going to
you know.
have a discussion about
Yeah,
this.
exactly.
Most of the time, it's 3 or 4 of us get together and say, okay, this is what I found. Here's what we've done in the past. This is what I think,
Right.
in my opinion, here's what we should do. And everybody throws their 2 cents worth in. You beat around for a little bit and say, okay, here's what we're doing, and you walk out and make the decision.
Yeah.
You know, and it's with every different boss that I've had over the years, it's different. And you learn.
Right.
And like I said earlier, Jay is by far the right guy for the job right now. You know, he listens. He gets it. He's a racer. You hate to say that, but he's a racer. He's owned cars. He's worked on cars. He's done everything, looked for sponsorship. You know, he understands every single aspect of it. So he's pretty good, really good to deal with. He wants to hear what you got to say, and he'll back me 100%. You know, he's the kind of guy that, okay, let's walk out of here, and this is what we're doing.
Right.
Ready?
Right.
Yep. Whoop,
Yep.
break,
Like
and we're on our way.
I like that.
Not to get too serious here, but Brayton's accident was the last accident of that kind during the month of May, if I recall correctly.
Joby Marcello, I think. We were just talking about this the other day. He
that was
died
92.
after Brayton. Yep.
Marcelo was 92.
Was it?
Yeah. Brayton was 96.
Yeah. See,
Yeah.
that's how much you know how it is. You lose it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the only one since then has been Renna, but that was
Yeah.
not during the month of May. But my point is, there's, right now, due to the way the series is run, there's a lot of people who would argue that we need to go back to those kind of speeds to bring the spectacle back and whatnot. You had to clean the car out. Where do you stand when you start hearing, like, we need 240 laps again and stuff like that?
I don't think it's necessary for the race. I don't think it hurt the race probably, because at that speed, people know it's 20 mile an hour quicker or whatever. Things happen 20 mile an hour quicker.
Right.
For me, there was nothing, even as a mechanic, to roll out there and run that fast.
Right.
It was wicked, man.
Yeah.
It was like we were that's another thing. Back in them days, we were the fastest car with Scott Brayton every day of practice, and we did it intentionally.
Right.
We wanted to beat them in the ground until they went, oh, we ain't got a chance to win the pole.
Right.
It's over with.
Right.
Right?
But
it was so going that fast. I don't drive them, so I can't answer that part. But experiencing that speed, just watching it, you can tell it.
Yeah.
It's badass fast.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you can tell. People look at you and go, well, you can't tell the difference between 220 and 240. Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's big.
Yes,
time.
you can,
That's
man.
big time.
It's they come off the corner, and it's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's nothing like the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and I still Mark Miles goes with me now. He's done it 2 out of the 3 years he's been here. I watched the start of the 500 from under the pylon,
Okay.
which is
That's awesome.
Terrifying.
this is the most spectacular seat in any sporting event
Yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah.
I can. We don't let people out on the trench anymore, but I would take people out there, and literally, they get sick.
God, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's so wicked. They come by and the wind's moving off the
Yeah.
cars, and it blows you back, and they're like 2 inches off the wall.
Yeah.
And especially for the start of the race. And I've
Yeah.
actually, Mark Miles went out there the very first year he was here. I said, you're coming with me. I said, I'll get you a headset. I'm about to show you the coolest place ever.
Yeah.
And he stood out there and was actually behind me. And I'm thinking, look, dude, if
It's
shit
not gonna
comes
matter.
off,
It's not gonna matter.
it's just going to go through me before it gets to you.
It's just more pieces. Yeah.
That's all it's going to be.
Right.
And then he didn't go last year. And then this year I seen him out on the grid, and I said, hey, you coming? He's like, is it okay? I said, you run the place, dude.
Yeah.
If you say it's okay, I know I'm going.
Yeah.
I was like, just please don't get killed, because once again, I don't want to have to explain that one.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm coming. Get me a headset.
Yeah.
And it is so wicked out there.
Yeah.
But it was even that much more cool when it
Yeah.
was 200,
Yeah.
like I said, 250 mile an hour roughly.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy.
You know, coming down the straightaway.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And I can remember you used to do calculations like every sport does. It's 10 pound of drags 1 mile an hour.
Yeah, sure.
10 horsepower is 1 mile an hour. And it was like you wanted a cornering speed to straightaway speed to be 7 mile an hour. If you could get that difference,
Yeah.
you were like hooked up.
Yeah.
Right. If you could
You know?
stay underneath that.
Right.
Yeah.
If you could
okay.
stay 7 mile an hour from your slowest speed to your average
fastest.
speed, it was like, man, this thing's a rocket ship.
Yeah.
And even the drivers, like I said, with Brayton telling you how soon you'd have to turn the car,
Right.
and the things they would tell you going that fast, like the band gate, which is the first gate going into turn 1 where the
Right.
bands actually come out
You're
for the they call it the band gate. He was like, that thing becomes like 10 times worse at that speed with the wind
Yeah.
than it does at 220.
Yeah.
At 220, it's still going to move you, but at 247 mile an hour, you better be holding on when you get there. Because if the wind's coming that way, it's going to move you over. And the other thing, at them speeds, people don't, not being racers or being around, don't get the car sliding the whole time you drive.
Yeah.
When you're going that fast in a car, it isn't just turning a corner.
Working.
You're turning, and it's working its way to the fence the whole way.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like whoever has the biggest balls and don't lift.
Yeah.
You know, don't lift.
So for qualifying, you'd be okay going
I'd
to
be
those kind of
okay for
speeds.
qualifying. I think it's absolutely incredible, and I think most of the drivers they want to experience that.
Yeah.
You know, that's what they do. That, you know, they're a different breed altogether, because how do you know, like with Weldon and how do you get back in that car again?
Yeah.
Still to this day, it amazes me. I'd say I'm impressed with you as being a race car driver. I don't understand how you guys drive the car right to the limit.
Yeah.
How do you know where that is? You know, like we put reds on in road course qualifying, and these dudes go right up to that edge. They don't go over it. Scott Dixon sitting right over there.
Yeah.
Will Power is another one that is like they can get right to the edge, and they just stay there.
Yeah.
And even to this day, after 27, 28, 30 years, however many it is, it's still, that shit still amazes me.
Yeah.
At them speeds, how that happens. I don't, how do you, it's like, because if you you crash.
That's
It isn't like like you step over and go, oh shit, that wasn't. It's like at the speedway at 200, even 235 mile an hour. You go over that edge, it's hurting.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
There isn't you don't save a race car going that fast.
No.
Right.
It ain't, if you do, it's sheer luck.
That's right.
You know, you watch Hinch when I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but he spun off a 2 at Indy. And he gave up. That's another one I can't believe how you give up driving a car and hold the belts and go. Next thing that happens is I'm hitting shit.
Yeah.
And Hinch comes off a 2, spins the thing. He gives up, right? Or what I call giving up. He's like, this thing's crashing.
Yeah.
Hands off the wheel, and the car mysteriously just straightens itself up.
Yeah.
And he grabs the wheel and drives on. And you're like, I'm coming in next time.
Gonna need new shorts.
I'm done. Okay, today I'm
Diaper
done.
change.
I'm done. But yeah, I'd like to go that. I'd like to see him go that fast again. I think it'd be cool.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it artificially though.
Yeah, I hear you.
You know, we don't want to do it by doing something we don't do regularly.
Yeah,
we want to be able to, like we did then. It wasn't artificial. We made the cars go that fast just by getting better.
Yeah.
And you don't want to do it artificially just to break Ari's record,
sure.
which I have my opinion about Ari's record. I don't think that's legal. I think I have the record at the Speedway, but that's another story.
Yes, it is.
That race car cannot go that fast.
Okay.
It physically cannot do that. I've
This
even
is the
told
Treadway
him that.
car.
The Treadway car. That car with drag numbers and horsepower and everything else being straight up physically is incapable of them speeds, in my opinion.
So how to do it then?
You tell me. I don't know. That's all I'm saying. I'm telling you. My car was square. We were straight up. We had the Buick engine, which them things made a lot of horsepower. We were legal.
You don't have to answer this because you like your job. But thinking about like team owners and the guys in charge, there's a perception we all have, you know, Penske's Mr. Buttoned Up, say nothing wrong. Chip Ganassi is maybe a little bit more brash, but obviously knows his shit. AJ Foyt is boisterous, crazy old man.
Yep.
Who's the most misunderstood? Like Foyt's not like that, or Penske's actually a funny son of a bitch, or you know what's?
I would say Roger Penske.
Really?
Even to my surprise, the dealings I've had with Roger,
He's just an alcoholic.
yeah,
He's a raging
he don't have any
alcoholic.
clue what he's doing half the time. The guy is absolutely an incredible person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've dealt with him on the good and I've dealt with him on the bad, and all he wants is he just once again, he's just the guy. Just tell me what you need. Tell me the truth. Tell me what you need. Tell me what you want. Whatever. Don't bullshit with me. I'm not going to bullshit with you.
Yeah, right.
I would say I'd hate to do business with the guy because there's these guys like that don't
He's
get to
gonna run
that
you down.
position by giving everything away they have.
Right.
But to deal with him personally, one-on-one, or to talk with him, he's a really cool guy.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, you look at his driver relationships. He clearly likes people succeeding.
Yes.
Yeah,
He gives me this, points at his eyes, and looks at me like that because I always give him that. I'm looking at you. Don't give me none of that shit. He gives it right back to me. You know. And a story on him I'll tell you real quick is we were at, I think it's Detroit. Don't mark my words, but we had a red flag for rain.
Okay.
So I'm on pit lane, and we got our procedures we're going through for red flag. Can't work on a car, yada yada. I happen to be standing right by his pit for some reason. Cars are all coming in, and he's screaming at me. And I couldn't even really understand what he was saying. He was so pissed, and cars were coming. And the cars are coming in, and I'm trying to get my guys sorted around. Hey, here's what we're doing, yada. Here's what they can't do. And I turned and gave him one of these, like, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
Give me a second. And he come unglued.
No one does this to Roger.
He thought I was giving him the old, I don't want to hear that
You shut your
garbage,
mouth.
hand in the
boy.
face
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
And he yells one of
Hired Jim
these,
Harbaugh.
some obscenities at me and says, don't you tell me that. And what he was actually asking was he wanted to change the visor on Elio's helmet, which we had already started discussing that because it went from a nice sunny race and they all got and now it's raining, so okay, we got to change some shields on, and we're working through it. But you can't hear you're on the radio trying to make a decision, and I didn't mean to do it to him, and even to this day, that's why he gives me that I'm looking at you. And when I did, I got home and I thought, holy shit, I just give Roger Penske the hold on a minute.
Right.
That's awesome.
And he gave me the ass chewing of my life. And then I will say on top of that again, the Elio situation, the very first guy to call me was Roger Penske.
Awesome.
That's pretty cool.
That's cool.
It sucked that I was on a plane and he had to leave a message.
You're like, no, I wanted to
Yeah,
talk to him.
but he's the first guy to call me and the first guy to say, this isn't how I operate. This is not what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You come see me as soon as you get to the racetrack.
Yeah.
I want you to understand, no hard feelings. There's nothing going on. It's not how I'm going to operate. And that you just get the utmost level of respect for a guy like that, and you can understand why Roger Penske is Roger Penske.
Yeah, it makes sense.
You know,
Did you
just
save
like
that message?
Huh?
Did you save that message?
No, I didn't.
As I say, we're playing it on the.
Yeah, it
Totally
was really cool because you get off it. It's like an unknown number, and I'm like, who called? It's like, oh my God.
Some telemarketer.
Yeah. And then you talk about AJ. We were talking when you were gone about, you meet these guys, and AJ Foy is so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, this dude is just I'm sure when he was racing and I got involved, AJ was on his way out. Once again, he didn't quit because he didn't set any rules. He was just driving race cars.
Yeah.
But the stories this guy can tell you, and you feel kind of guilty a lot of the times because he'll be talking about people from his era, and then they die.
Yeah.
I hate to say that.
No.
Or guys he used to work with, and he's like, oh, you remember, Billy Bob, he died last week, and I have no idea who the hell this guy is, but to AJ, that was somebody.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
And you go, I feel bad about that. And then we were talking earlier, and I go home, and I'm thinking, it's AJ. It's coming, right?
Yeah.
It's coming, man.
Yeah.
And I told my girlfriend, I'm like, I don't know how I handle this deal. Because he's like, he
he's such a
is
big
the
guy,
man.
Yeah.
He still is the man.
Yeah.
And he's just a normal guy.
Right.
People don't get that, but these guys are just normal. They just drive race cars.
Right.
They do. John Menard told me one time the only difference between them and you is they get paid to drive, you get paid to work on it. It's the only difference.
Yeah.
No.
And so AJ's everybody's hero. If he's not your hero in racing, and then like I said, you look at it and they think, holy shit, he's going to get on a bulldozer, I hope, and never come back.
Right.
Yeah.
Just
Off into the
Yeah,
sunset.
there
nobody's ever going to know. It's
Yeah.
just, where'd AJ go? We don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He just didn't come back.
Yeah.
And that'd be cool. That'd be
Yeah.
the greatest ending of the
Greatest
story
ending.
for that
Yeah.
guy.
I like that his Viking funeral is a bulldozer in like an endless cornfield. I love this. Well, I got to say, for having gotten the call from us like 10 hours ago that we were doing this, I give you credit for just showing up and not holding back.
Well, I hope it worked. I mean, I hope it's good for you.
Yeah,
Absolutely perfect.
Most people know I'm a no guy.
I think
Yeah.
that's why we were led your direction. So
Yeah.
it worked out
No, it
perfectly
was
well.
cool to get because, I mean, you just never know when drivers are going to flake. So, yeah. I don't know. But,
sorry.
Yeah, that's another one we had to send to the back at Indy, didn't we?
New Garden this year?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I can't believe you just did that.
Oh, whatever.
He's definitely not coming on
He's
now.
not coming on.
It's like I heard that.
I heard it.
Awesome. Continental's got the check.
I'm finished.
Wow, that was such a great episode. That guest really knew how to tell a story.
That's good that you approve of Rocket, Ryan. It really makes it worthwhile that you're sitting here right next to me overseeing this process.
You're welcome, Sean. I'm right here.
All right, so thanks again to Rocket, who had no idea what he was stepping into and did an awesome job and honestly just fit right in. I love that guy. So we'll send you out of here. We're going to go back to, again, another fan submission. This is going back to Kari Holmes, KariHolmes. You can find any number of songs by her on iTunes. Here's something called Something New.
Never barged into my life. You moved in so sly, like a snake in the tall grass. You were piercing your eyes, cut through glass. And there I was, little Miss Innocent. I fell in love, but it was no accident. 'Cause you knew what you were doing with every move that you made. What can I say? You swallowed me whole. You captured my heart and my soul in a venomous bite. And there was no way I was coming out alive. With your treacherous deeds, you made me believe you were in over me. But now I see you were in over you. And I was just something new. I thought what we had was real. I love the way you made me feel. You played the parts, said the lines. I never thought twice. I should have seen the signs. Love blinded me. Your heart is made of stone, and I was just something you thought you owned. And now that I think it over, you needed all the power. You swallowed me whole. You captured my heart and my soul with a venomous bite. And there was no way I was coming out alive. With your treacherous deeds, you made me believe you were in over me. But now I see you were in over you. Now it's just something new. We were over before we started, yeah. Your love is like an untamed fire. With every lie, the fling and high. Swallow me whole. You captured my heart and my soul with a venomous bite. And there was no way I was coming out alive, yeah. With your treacherous deeds, you made me believe you were in over me. But now I see you were in over you. And now it's just something new. I thought what we had was real. I love the way you made me feel.